Today we're going to be working on a 2018 Buick Enclave Avenir that has multiple service codes that came on at the exact same time. Some of the codes are a 301, which means it has a cylinder misfire. There's a service the parking brake in the back. There's a code for the all-wheel drive. Then there's also another code telling us that the steering assist is disabled. Now, 9 times out of 10, if you have multiple service codes that went off at the exact same time for various different systems on your car, it's probably battery related. And if you get into that 80,000 mile range, which this one has here, it's a good chance you just need to replace your battery. There's a couple different ways you can test it. You can use one of these load testers. This is an OTC one that I've had for many years. Not only do you get the voltage when it's sitting there, you can put a load on it to see if it drops below a certain voltage. You're looking above 12 volts to say it's good. When you put a load on it, it'll get down to that 7, 6, 8, around in that range where it's telling you it's not a good battery. It should stay up within that 11 and a half when you put a load. On this one here, it did go a little bit lower than that, so we're going to go ahead and replace it. If you don't have one of these, you can always go into a local auto parts store and they'll test it for free. But if you have around that 80,000 mile range, I would recommend just starting with replacing the battery because you're on vault time anyways around that 80,000 miles for a battery. So let me show you how you can replace the battery very easily yourself on this 2018 Enclave. So to get started here, here's our battery. So we'll disconnect the negative terminal. That's just going to be a 10 mil. We'll set that aside. Then we're going to reposition this engine control module and we're going to set it aside. And there's just going to be some clips here on both sides. Just push those in, then set this aside. The next thing, according to the manual, they want us to disconnect some of this fuse block wiring harnesses. Now just pay attention to these numbers in here. If you do disconnect any of these, you need to make sure you put them back in the right spot. So over here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and that looks like 5, 6, 7, 8. So if you remove any of them, make sure you put them back in the same spot. With that said, on this one, I believe we can just disconnect here in our positive terminal over here, and I think we should be able to just flip this aside here. So we'll try that first, but if you can't on your specific model, you just have to disconnect these and set them in the side there as well. And these look like this is just gonna be a 13 mil. And we'll disconnect the battery positive terminal. And this should come right out. And we should just be able to pop this right off of the battery. Then just kind of gently set it to the side. Next we'll remove this retainer here, and it looks like we just have two 10 mil as well. Then we should be able to just lift this straight up and we'll remove this. Now be careful when you're removing this. Don't pry back against it because you can break those clips. You want to lift it straight up and you'll see that there's a little lip in there that this is holding on to. So just slide it up like that. Then remove this as well. And we got one last thing to remove down here, and I'll show you it when I get it out here, but it's just going to be a 13 mil. And that's what's holding your battery in place. And after you remove that, you should be able to slide this around. And there's the bolt that you're going to remove down there. And this is what you just removed there. So this is going to be seating in there. So then this is the lip holding down the battery. So just make sure this doesn't fall back in there because we need to make sure we reinstall this on the new battery. Now we can go ahead and just lift the battery out of here. And it looks like on this one it's going to be easier for us to just remove these in the back here. Now sometimes you can get away with just setting it aside there, but you know, we don't want to risk cracking any of this bracket here. So we'll go ahead and remove these here so then we can pry this off a little bit easier. So these are just going to be 210 and it looks like 213. And just make sure you're paying attention to the numbering of each one of these. So over here we have 5, 6, 7, 8. We need to make sure when we install the new one on here, we install them back in the exact spot. Alright, so now we should be able to pry this out and it'll be a little bit easier to get our battery out. Then we'll just lift this battery straight out. Alright, so now we're ready to install our new battery, and as you can see I have the factory GM ACDelco battery up here, and you might be surprised, you can get this battery here for $100 cheaper online shipped to your house than what it costs when you go to the local parts stores. Now I know some of those local parts stores, on some vehicles they will replace your battery for free. However, if you look at some of their prices, their batteries are pretty expensive considering they don't allow you to use any promo codes etc. on their batteries anymore, so you're basically paying full price. This battery right here is about $160 on Rock Auto, about $10 for a quart, and another $10 is shipping. So you can get this, around $180, $190. Versus a lot of the batteries for this 18 Enclave at your local parts stores start at $260 before tax and everything, and it's going to be closer to $300. Versus you can get this shipped to your house for $200. So you might want to take a look at this. Obviously, if you're in a pinch and your battery's dead, you probably won't be able to, wait for it to be shipped to your house. But you can save yourself some money by getting this GM part online through Rock Auto and some other places, and sometimes some of the dealers as well, than what it costs to go to some of those local parts stores. Alright, so now we're ready to set our battery down in here. Just make a note of this piece here. This little ledge on here needs to be sitting on the top of the battery on the side right here. And what that'll do, that'll make sure your battery stays in place. Just make sure you're lining that up as you set your battery down in there. Then we'll take this piece and we'll go ahead and set this down in here as well. Alright, so after you get that position, then we'll go ahead and tighten this up. Alright, so now we're ready to install our bracket here, so just get this lined up. You'll set it there on the side of the battery, then take your computer, and you're going to see these attached grooves here. Just put it in the slots down there by the battery. And it should slide in place like that. Then go ahead and tighten the 210 mil. Here's a nut over here, then you have the bolt on this side. Alright, next thing we'll do here, we'll reattach this on the battery, and it should snap in place like that. Just verify that it's not wiggling around, it's on there tight. Then we'll go ahead and connect our wiring. Just remember the order, it's going to be 8, 7, 6, and 5, so just make sure you're lining those up to the correct one, and tighten each one of those down. And what I typically do on these is I'll hand tighten them first just to get them started so you don't risk stripping anything out here. Now we're ready to connect our terminal back on here. Now I just tightened this earlier just so I wouldn't lose that, but we're going to want to make sure we remove that, set this in there, then tighten that back down. And go ahead and tighten that, and then also tighten our terminal over here as well. And this will just be a 10 mil. All right, then we'll go ahead and connect this back on here. And it should snap in place. Then we'll remove the cap off that negative terminal, and we'll go ahead and tighten up our negative as well. All right, so then the last thing we'll do, we'll just reattach this wiring harness down here on the bottom. And just go through there and verify everything looks tight. Then you've completed your job here. So hopefully this helped you out. If it did, please give me the thumbs up. If you're interested in more content like this, please hit that subscribe. But again, I hope this helped you out, and thanks for watching.